Good morning, guys. Welcome to this Tuesday, January 13th. And we got the CPI number come out this morning. That's going to be the big piece of news coming out right from the get-go this morning. We had the NFIB Small Business Optimism Index. Came in a little bit better than expected, a tenth of a point. Obviously, not the big market mover. It came out at 6 a.m. But CPI at 8:30, at 10 o'clock again, new home sales. After that, we have a 30-year auction at 1. So that's what we got going in terms of news. Overnight, backing off the highs a little bit. As we kind of thought yesterday, wasn't expecting them to close at the high, but backed off a little bit. And so far, they have been kind of holding. At least they're holding about that 69.90 I talked about yesterday. So that's a good sign. And I will just see, I'm going to fold this guy back in like this on the capital flow. Still look like they're trying. There's not quite a move out of the middle yet. So yesterday's trading, they were up here extending and then they backed right back off again. Today's, or that was, sorry, it was Fridays. And on yesterday's trading, they were down, they're right back up again and then getting knocked down a bit. So far, we're starting off okay, definitely on the upside. And I would just stay on the long side of this right now until we see any signs of weakness. Looks like they're trying to break out on the upside. If that happens, we may have a nice move going. I don't know how far that can go, but definitely a nice move to the upside in front of us. So I would stay on the long side, looking to buy weakness. Below that 69.90, I would go back range bound. Back in that lower range again. So fairly aggressive in that shift. But if they can hold above it, I want to stay on the long side on this. So looking to buy against that 7,000, 69.90s for rotations up. Looking for short setups with a little bit of caution at the 15s and at the 7,025s. So 15 and 25s for shorts. A little bit less aggressive on those since we are leaning towards the long side at that point. Now, the CPI number can come out and set this whole thing off to the upside, to the downside. It's anyone's guess. I would expect the CPI to be not a bad number, given that the biggest chunk of everything is energy, and that has been on the downside. Oil has been below $60 for a while now, and right now they're right at $60 or a little bit above $60, but they're going to roll to the next expiration here shortly as well. But it is one of these things where you really have to look at how energy prices are impacting it. And so far, they have been to the downside, and they're going to stay on the downside, and energy is going to be cheaper. So I don't think inflation is going to be a big issue, but there's still a lot of focus on it. Now, if they take out that 90s, we are back on the back range band. Still looking to buy against the 69.80s, the 70s, down to the 50s. If we get down to the 35s and 25s, we are back in this lower range again, and that's an area of concern. So again, they take out that area, the 69 or 68.90, 69, 69, 10. That's when we have some problems. But then we're down all the way down in this lower range. I mean that could certainly happen, but it's at this point I'm not going to start focusing on that part. If they start taking out this area, the 69.50s midpoint, to start trading below it, yeah, then you have to start worrying about how far they can go on the downside. But as long as they hold about the midpoint 69.50, I'm going to be staying range bound with a bias to the upside. Above the 69.90, I'm leaning long, and that's kind of the starting point for today's trading. And then we'll see how it develops. So looking to get long against the 7,000, that would be aggressive. 69.90s against that three-letter edge. Below that, taking off the long buyers, going back range bound. Still looking to buy against 69.80s, 70s down to that 50 area. And if they trade below 50s, well, then we are back down below this area on the capital flow, the mode on the capital flow, and I would be more inclined to start looking at the short side, but you're still looking to buy against these support areas until they take out these lower areas. Those lower areas come out, that's when you really have to worry about if something is not right at that point. You have a risk-off date setting out. Let's then scroll up this chart a second. Come on. There you go. So, and now that I'm talking about this lower area, so you have this whole chunk, these three areas on the downside, the 68.90s, 69, 69.10. Below that one, bets are off. That's when I think this thing starts getting bad for us. The 35s and the 25s, that's going to be a key area for really shifting the bias to the short side and start thinking about, yeah, how far they're going to be able to take this. But so far, I'm not going to have to worry too much about it. Watch the first level to watch is that midpoint at 69.50, and that comes out. Yeah, then start thinking about what's going to happen on these lower areas. So that's the ES to get started this morning. News is coming out at 8:30, and that's going to be something potentially can drive it one way or the other. Now, as always, if the move is directional, try to trade with the direction after the first little balance bar forms. If not, if it's just volatile but not directional, which I think is going to be, then I would just stay on the analysis. Nasdaq backing off a little bit more than I thought. They were down here below that three-letter edge. That kind of got a little screwed up for me. I'm going to need to get this guy down like that. So there you go. I need to get that three-letter edge in that support area. So you can see we have a support area at the 870s. That's that three-letter edge from yesterday. They've been probing below it just a little bit, but haven't been able to hold or stay below it. So I'm going to still lean on those. So I'm going to lean on these two areas of support, the 870s and the 840s for rotations up. Below both of these, I'm going back range bound and start thinking about just range bound trading. Still looking to buy against the 750s, 680s, 630s on the way down. And below I think it's below 630, I start getting really concerned about stuff. So below this midpoint here, the 690 is a little bit earlier. 690, that midpoint, that's when you have to start worrying about something, the short side and potentially the market heading lower. So 690 is going to be this support area, 680, 690 here at the mode. Below that support area, I would be more inclined to start looking for shorts. Still looking to buy against that 630. That's not a bad setup, right, or a bad support area down here. So I would give it a little bit of range on the Nasdaq. It's always a lot more volatile than you think. So the 680s and the 630s here, below these two support areas, I would be a lot more inclined to. I would start thinking short side of the market. At that point, we're heading down towards these lower areas. And as I said, it could be gnarly. You never know. I may have to resplit this guy a little bit here to get a little bit crowded on this one. The big chunky area to watch is really this the 25 400s, this whole area in the middle. If that comes out, we are in trouble. And then the market is backing off. So far, it looks to me like the market is really trying to take this higher. We can start early start of the year, we'll take it. That's usually a good sign. But the first 3 months into March, it could be a little bit volatile. Now, again, we also get earnings seasons come out. I think earnings season, I don't know exactly which day it starts, but it's going to be starting to come out here, and that's also going to be one of these things going to potentially drive the market. That could be the next big thing after these news events we're getting here. So starting look on the Nasdaq, looking to buy against the 870, 880s, and the 840s for rotations up. Looking for short setups against the 930s, 990s, 20,020s, 2620s, and that's pretty much where I'm at on those now. As long as I hold about this nice ledge, the 850s, I'm going to be inclined to stay on the long side of this. So this is these two support areas, the 870 and the 830s. That corresponds to that big ledge we have here on the profile. We probed about it, so a little bit of value building above it. That's a good sign. So that edge getting a little bit weaker, but it's still an edge to pay attention to. And if they trade below it, I think chances are we can run it all the way down to the 680s. But initially, looking to buy against that 870, 880, and the 840 level for rotations up. Looking for short setups against resistance at 930s, 980s up to that 26,020s. 26,020s. And I will say, I mean, if they start taking out the highs, I mean, we will be up in new highs in no time. So a lot of stocks has been. It's interesting to see some of these stocks with high flying in late fall here. has been knocked down pretty good. So they are definitely other companies driving this higher now. So that's how we get started on the Nasdaq. Both ES and Nasdaq start from the long side. On the Nasdaq, pay attention to these first two areas, the 880s, 870 to 80s, and the 840s. On the ES, that level is going to be the 6990s. And then we'll see where they're going to go from there. Now, on the bond side of things, as always, the 30-year auction coming out today. That's going to be interesting. Could be a little bit of action going on. So going to be a little bit cautious trading the bond today since we have an auction coming out. It's going to be, could be some manipulation going on. But as usual, I'm staying looking for my setups. I have a nice ledge here building at the 12s. 12 had a 1, 2, 3, 4, but not quite that setup I'm looking for. I'm looking for more like the one at the, you see that 11. You see the bar like stalling there. They like a bunch of bars just not being able to take it lower. You don't need that many bars, but if you have two, you let that third bar form. And if they haven't been able to take out the high or low after 3 bars, then click in your order at the edge. And if you're a little bit lucky, you can manage to get a fill, and then you have a great trade location for a potential move. If they run over you, that's just how it goes, you know. And so oh yeah, got you, Gary. So they beat. So it began this morning. JPN and okay, both beat. Yeah, cool. So there you have it. So earnings season is upon us. Earnings season is upon us already. That's going to be interesting. So right now we have the. I mean, we have CPI today and PPI tomorrow in terms of news. After that, we don't have a ton of news, but I mean, the earnings are definitely going to be the ones driving it, and people are going to be watching that very carefully. All right, so back to the ES, but I'm going to start, oh, sorry, before they leave the bonds here, I'm just starting off range bound on the bonds, looking to buy weakness at the 1512s, 06s, down to the 1502s, looking for shorts against the 1519 to 20, up to the 28s, up to the 116s. So above 16s, I may have a directional move to the upside. Below the 1502s, I may have a move to the downside. But it's so I'm going to be a bit tight on that range today. And as you can see, it's below the 1502s here. We have one more ledge below that, the 28 potentially could hold. So you can include that in your potential buying opportunity. But you can see the daily range in the bond has been pretty anemic. And it's as long as it stays anemic like that, it's going to be you're just going to trade it as a range bound market and be patient and wait for it to trade up to one of the edges. And then look for that setup. And if you get it, then good. If not, then you just go back to watching it and looking for that setup. So trying to be aggressive on the bonds when it's trading like that is just not a good thing. All right, back to the ES and Nasdaq, and we got what we need. So staying on the long side of this to get started, we know when to change our bias. First, they're going back range bound, and watch on the capital flow charts the midpoints here. So on the ES, that midpoint is down here at that 6950s. On the Nasdaq, that midpoint is at the that 680 to 90. That's what that midpoint is. All right, so we'll leave it there, guys. So good trading. I will see you back at 11:30 for the next update. And watch out for CPI coming out at 8:30. All right, guys, later.